Okay, let's finish off. This is a game that I expect to go to turn 100, so let's see how that happens. And honestly, I expect to get an A in it too. We're at a C already with quite a way to go. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. We'll just try to keep things under control, keep things balanced, see where we go. So from here though, what I still want to do is create this buttress essentially against this pollution here. The other option would be to try to expand over here because this is actually pretty close. That might be easier. It might be easier. I think this might be pretty much where it is, and it is expanding rapidly. So yeah, I don't think we'll actually be able to make inroads here. What we could do is clean this up. Just flip a bunch of these tiles fairly quickly. Or we could try to flip these ones. So I'm going to go here. Let's do that. Although, we'll see. Maybe on the next one we'll do some of the others. Let's keep doing this. With this one here, we can probably just move it up here. Put down a sanctum here, just in case that helps. Okay, so we have enough fabric now that we can just take some time to be satisfied with our knowledge and gain some fabric that way, gain some quiet that way. Might be good. Yeah, I don't know what else we could really be doing. We could start generating more fabric. That's one idea. We could get an engineer to try to push some of these tiles over. That's another idea. I don't think that's moving particularly quick though. I could just build a factory. Could go for some factories, which yes, they'll pollute, might cause some tiles to flip, but at least they'll give me a steady source of fabric, which I don't seem to have at this moment. But I think I'll just do this, honestly. I think I'll just put a factory down on one of these. I'll do it as a building rather than as an engineer. Now, one option is this. Seems like a pretty solid option. Take 15 turns though. So yeah, I don't need to spend that much time on it. I can just do this. We'll put it down. It's tricky. We don't want to flip these tiles into pollution, but we also don't want to pollute too much on tiles. We'll do it here. This is a lotus tile already, so that's probably the safest place to keep it. Okay, we've got some more connectors that we can do. It's pretty interesting. Violence at Chauri Chaura and the Khilafat movement. So yeah, we'll just leave those as is. I think we might even, we have to keep working on the quiet, of course, but I think we're done with the key part. I think we've like gotten enough to go there. So what I'm planning right now is that I'm going to build a couple of factories to generate some fabric, cap it at maybe one or two, and then use those factories to pull off the satisfaction projects and use that boost in quiet just to flip a few more tiles. And I think that'll be pretty much the right balance. We seem to have some actions going on in these camps that require a bunch of fabric, but that's okay. Might do that actually, but we'll see. In the meantime, we'll just keep building sanctums with these. You want to use up your inspirations pretty much as soon as you get them in when you're in the quiet economy, because there is a cap to the number that you can have on any turn. So if you don't use them, you're just leaving them around. We'll see what I do after that. We'll see where things go after that. Maybe what I should do instead is actually just expand into the ridge. It's not a very industrialized region at all. And if I can just get a bunch of quiet citizens down there, that might do a lot of good. I will finish off this campaign fairly quickly. It's just a sensible thing to do. And then I think I will start sending units and so on down into the ridge. Try to get a few camps there and flip a few tiles. Yeah. It's a shame. Okay. What are these? Create colonies, which I do not wish to do, and allows expansion, which might be useful actually. Let's try that out. And just do some unstructured research. Okay, so we have no tiles except this one. That one looks liable to flip. So given that, what we'll do is we'll just move this down here, try to find some quests that we can use, like that one over there. Meanwhile, with this one, what we could do is we could put down a factory. That's definitely an option. Don't really have the best places for it. Oh, this would be a good factory point. So it looks like we're generating some fabric now, but really not very much. So we'll just do this. We'll just build this factory right here. Do some very limited industrialization. See if we can do much of that. Yeah. But this looks good. This does look like a successful game. I can even start maybe adding some views to the game, to the report if I want. It's fun. I guess the other thing to focus on right now might just be building up my relationship with the other players. I've been leaving that kind of to the whims of the game. Let's see right now if I can build that up a bit. We've been very lucky that Kiran has not industrialized very heavily. It has been mostly Anupam and to some degree and Radha as well. So what we'll do is we'll just bring these down here, try to flip this camp so that we can continue the spread of quiet. And once we do that, maybe flip another, maybe flip the city even. Out here we should just add a sanctum here. That's too close not to. But besides that, we'll just move down here, move here, and investigate this. Unfortunately, there's a lot of pollution here, so we can't set up any sanctums now. So I guess I'll take this one down here, explore here. Over here, what should we do? Oh, these are going to be great. It's just... So here what we're doing is we're drawing from Radha. Radha is genuinely interested in other people, and she takes care with her words. So both of those, you can see they'll add quiet. So we'll just put down a couple of these, right? Put it in the city itself. These are core things, and that's a good use of some of the fabric that we're generating. So that's how I could spin fabric. That's always a good way to make up small fabric deficits. Could build one more factory. Yes, so I will do that, I expect. I will just put down this factory here. Again, it adds to production, adds to pollution, but I think we're actually at a place where this is sustainable. You know, we don't have to completely forswear growth. We could rely entirely on our inspiration mechanics, but I think we're in a good position now. We're in a position where we can actually impose ourselves a little bit more, where we can just go after some stuff we want. And here, what I want is to be able to generate enough fabric on an average turn that we can do some of these, that we can try some of these satisfaction projects and get the quiet associated with them. Yeah. Ideally, this central one would flip too when it's got so much quiet around it. Okay. Okay. So these, by the way, these are over here. It's unsurprising. A bunch of charges left on this. So let's start here. We'll go over here. We're generating fabric these days, so we can just do this treatment, add a quiet there. It just moves this around and get down here, see where that takes us. Here, just inspect this, and then on the next run we'll be able to work on a bunch of these quests, I imagine. I could consider getting a dealer. If we're generating enough fabric now, as we should be, then I can start using that to complete quests as well. That's a big help. Let's see. But I do think if I can quickly flip this camp right here, that'll make a big difference. That will allow me to expand. Presumably I should also do that over here in Evil. That might also be helpful. So yeah, let's just see where things take us. I could just use the engineer to directly develop these camps, but I don't know if that's necessary. Okay. What have we got here? I don't think I need that. Let's just shuffle there. Okay. What I'm going to do is just inspire here. Back. Short. But there we go. That's one thing. Another here. Oh well. Yeah, that's a bit of a pain, but not a big deal. Okay, so this is where I'm going to use the fabric. Oh wow, so I have unlocked the relax around approach, which will generate more quiet. That's nice, but I'm going to do this one right here. See where that takes us. And enter. Yep. These turns, it looks like it's been a while since anybody's added anything to the report, so that's a bit concerning. Hopefully that'll change soon. You see, Radha just took over this region completely, which is good. In all honesty, I think I'll try to leave it to her, because then she'll get a bunch of inspirations every turn, which she can probably use quite well. It looks like my factories are very much overloaded, in that they're getting a lot more than they're using, but that's fine. So now we can try to be friends with Anupam, try to be friends with Radha, both good. Should be able to finish those fairly quick. Okay, but I'm just going to move some inspirations over here and here, and kind of trust, just trust in my own inspirations over here to manage things beyond that. Oof, so you can see how much pollution is still out here. So what we'll do is we'll just bring this here and develop and see if that does anything. In the meantime, we're here. 120, a little bit short. That's good. Completed that. Okay, so we did fix this one. That's great. Oh, wow. Wow. My goodness, what a turn. Wow, they were really stockpiling that one. Where? All the way at an A at turn 81? That's pretty cool. So now the real question is just, can we stay sustainable for 19 turns? And I would like to reduce the complexity of the report as well. It's a small thing, but at the end of the game, the teacher does prefer a less complicated report, so we'll just try to get that done too. Again, we're just waiting for turns to complete. We'll put down a wonder by the look of it. We have 4 quests currently asking for a wonder. We can probably find a useful one to put down. We should get a bunch of new inspirations this turn. We can use them to complete some campaigns, complete some quests. If we can start a wonder, if we can start production of a wonder, then that'll also give the quests something to look towards when we complete them. Game also wants me to like Radha a bit more. I think that's probably a good idea. Developing No with Anupam, I think that'll come up kind of automatically anyway. We did start a debate on that last topic, so we'll see if anything comes of that. So yeah, just waiting to see. Become friends, debate on never violence. Oh dear, we did hit our first pollution level. It's turn 82. Pollution per turn is only 369. So yeah, we do not have much to worry about. Let's try to actually go negative in pollution, or goes to 0 at least, So let's see. It doesn't look like there's anything particularly useful here, except maybe this. Alright, let's try to get that. Not rolling that high. Okay, there's a... But no. Okay. Alright, we're just going to put down this wonder again. No big deal. Let's turn 82. So as for the rest, I mean, we've picked up Ridge. What I will try doing on our next turn is, if we can keep control of that area, what I'll try to do is expand the city. That'll consolidate our control some more. And if we can just reduce our outstanding quests, then we'll probably go back to producing a decent amount of quiet. Maybe we can flip some tiles. Just send some inspirations down there as well. See how things go. Okay, down to 6. It's much better. I can probably get under the limit on the next turn. We'll just see how that goes. Yeah. So over here, the debate was caused by a couple of points from, I think, Peter Gelderloos, talking about how there's very little difference between countries that came out of their dictatorships through non-violent methods versus through violent methods, how it's difficult to tell the difference now in terms of real effect. And I mean, it's worth reading if you want to explore the argument from that perspective. The book is The Failure of Nonviolence, I think that's the name of it. And I mean, if you're going to read Gandhi or something, right, he'll tell you a lot about the success of nonviolence, about how nonviolence is not only morally correct but also infallible. So it is worth taking a look at Gelderloos's counterpoint, but I did feel that, like a lot of these books, he gets very caught up in litigating the specifics of some of his movements. You know, I think it's unfortunate that he got into personal fights with people who are pro-nonviolence. But and I do think it is important at any of these to understand like who you're actually pushing against, right? If you're busy infighting, it gets very hard to come together and make any kind of progress. But I think that goes for him too. I think he also has gotten too caught up in his own personal fights to see the big picture. But again, it's worth it. Like, it's one of those books where it's good to have the counterpoint, and that's why I read the book. That's why I put the book in the game, because I wanted to give people more exposure to points that just don't agree with nonviolence as a whole. I wanted to present reasonable arguments against nonviolence. And to be fair to him, they are very, he is making good faith arguments, even if he gets caught up in a lot of very personal fights and over the big picture. It is certainly the fact that nonviolence has taken over the way people protest, right? If I go for a sit-in on, let's say, Gaza, right, then it is going to be a non-violent protest. It's going to be people shouting slogans, holding signs, but not people burning down police stations, for instance. And you will find people at the protests who are very concerned with the respectability of the protest. And again, it's easy to put this. It's easy to have bad faith readings of that. It is, but it is definitely also true that respectability politics are one of those things which come much more naturally to the people who are used to getting the benefits of respectability versus the people for whom respectability is a constant struggle. If you're part of an established in-group of the majority of the region you're in, and of some favored out-groups as well, then respectability is essentially the default. You're always given the benefit of the doubt. Whereas if you're from a separate group, then what you'll find is that you always have to prove respectability and prove it over and over again. Let's see here. I think I've completed this, so I'm just going to try to have some quiet time. And of course, Anupam wanted to share facts with me instead. So I think that's the thing about enforcing respectability at a protest. It's that you have to understand when doing so that there are some people at the protest for whom respectability is just never given, and for whom it's hard, therefore, to value the same respectability that you fight for. And so by that token, I think it is worthwhile to ask yourself, why is respectability the key point here? Why is the key point here keeping the protest within the bounds of respectability rather than doing whatever is most effective for the protest? And a lot of people will say that it is one and the same thing. If you keep the protest respectable, it will be more effective, which is a legitimate argument. I'm certainly not going to say that that's wrong, but I do think it's important then to point out that for some people that respectability is not an option. For some people, respectability is just not something you can ever obtain, right? There are people who will be deemed non-respectable just by their presence at a protest, whether or not that protest turns violent. I mean, you've seen Modi at a number of protests say that you call the protesters anti-national, and say that you will be able to tell by the clothes they wear. What he was referring to was that what he was saying was that because there were Muslims at the protest, it was not a respectable protest. It had been infiltrated by people whom he was trying to position as not Indian. And that's just the reality of these protests, that there are going to be some people there who have their personhood denied as a matter of routine, right? If you are a Muslim in India and you show up at the CAA protest and you show up wearing clothes that identify you as Muslim, there is nothing in all of that is not respectable. That is still entirely respectable. But to the Hindutva mind, your mere presence is enough to make the protest seem threatening, right? Which again is being generous to them. I don't think that they are scared per se. I think that they merely see a vehicle for bigotry. But then, if your opponents are going to tar a protest simply because some people whom they like are there, then it's hard to take it in good faith that you need to maintain other norms of respectability in order to succeed. If you are not going to be treated as respectable, then what are you upholding with respectability norms, And I mean, I think it is more complicated than that. I do think that you do have neutral viewers. You will have people who are simply watching and who do not hate Muslims as much as the RSS does, but who do hate violence. And the thing about the thing about violence is that there's a large fear that it will act as a leveler. That the there are deeply rooted inequalities in society, right? That goes without saying. And part of that is that those who are privileged will naturally fear those who are not. Those who are privileged would like to maintain the privileges that they have, and are worried that those who are not privileged will try to come and take it away, right? Because people understand, people recognize that privilege is unfair. They recognize that people without privileges would like to have the privileges that they have, and they feel that anarchy is the kind of thing that can cause these fields to be leveled. Right? And I mean, I'm committed to nonviolence personally, right? I'm committed to nonviolence for a large number of reasons, not least of which is that I cannot, I do not want to put violence on my soul, right? That's just a line I draw, that I do think that violence is dehumanizing. And I think it's dehumanizing to the person upon whom it's enacted and to the person who enacts it. And I do not want to do that. I do not want to be on either side of that equation. I don't want to be the person who is causing somebody else to suffer violence, and I do not want to be a person who inflicts violence myself. Right? And in this game, you'll see people arguing about the moral necessity of violence, right? You'll see Fanon, you'll see Andreas Malm, right, who say that Fanon, for instance, says that violence is a necessary means with which to cleanse the damage done by colonialism, because the psychological damage of colonialism still hangs around, right? If you're in a country that is colonized, the psychic shock of colonization is everywhere. You cannot escape it. And Fanon's theory was that violence would cleanse that, which I do not think has proven to be the case. But you do see with a country like India, you do see that the promise of the RSS is to restore a dignity that they feel was lost by colonization, and that they feel was lost by Muslim rule. And of course, it's nonsense in and of itself, right? If you are the kind of person whose dignity is restored by persecuting minorities, I mean, that's not a dignity worth fighting for, right? That speaks very poorly of you. And of course, I do also think that even without the national humiliations of colonialism, I do think minorities would be persecuted nonetheless, as we can see in a country like, let's say, Britain, right, which has had their own fascist movements, had their own anti-immigrant movements, have had no shortage of bigotry, right, without the psychic shock of colonization. But I do think that a lot of people root their unhappiness in that psychic shock of colonization. And I mean, if you go to India, right, you will immediately see that you are treated differently as a white person or a black person or an Indian person, right? And a lot of Indians cannot shake off the very core belief that white people are better than them. And you'll see that when like tech work is outsourced to India, you'll see very, very deferential Indians, even if that doesn't need to be the case. And this is part, I think, of why I think that this is part of the very strong belief that Indian workers are incompetent, right? Because they're so fawning and so doubtful of their own ability that it's hard for the people they work with to have confidence in their ability. But as with all of these, um, this is just anecdotal experience, right? It's just theorizing, as is this entire game. So let me talk about that a little bit, actually. This is a game with a very strong ideology, right? It's a post-colonial ideology. It was built by going through all of the features of existing Forex games one by one and coming up with post-colonial alternatives, right? And key to that is that there is actually a dominant ideology in Forex games as a whole, right? And this happens without those games working out ideology, right? Nobody there put pen to paper on what the ideology is, but these games are very normative, right? They do tend to kind of uncritically reproduce the status quo, and that is a strong ideology in itself. And there are also games that like to have simple answers to big questions. This is the guns, germs, and steel thing, right? Why are some civilizations more prosperous than others? Jared Diamond will say it's because of guns, germs, and steel. And he'll just hand wave away all of the cases where that cannot be explained by that, right? And games like Civilization are very similar, right? They say that the differences are in guns and steel, right? More than they don't model out germs, but guns and steel are big parts, right? You'll go through the tech tree and you'll have crossbowmen while they have just standard bowmen, and then your crossbowmen will shoot their bowmen from far away and you will win the war, right? You get your factories before they do, and so your production outstrips them, and then once again you win the war or whatever. You complete the space race first, doesn't really matter, right? And one of the things that it has to abstract away as a result is like real climate change. Climate change as a civilizational threat, as like a threat to human existence, rather than a minor raising of the sea levels. So what this game does is it's not really built. I didn't build it to say you guys are wrong, my game is right, this is the correct answer, your answer is wrong, and there's no space for the both of us. I built this to say that there are alternatives possible, that it doesn't have to be the dominant ideology, right? So that's what this is. That's what this playthrough is also supposed to show, right? That we can have a play session where we're really dependent on the other players to get the actual work done, and in turn they're dependent on us to keep the world going, and that is the biggest innovation of Syphilisation, I think, that the game is out and out cooperative. That I've changed the core fantasy from competitive to cooperative. And this is important because these are very different ways to view like the human endeavor, right? A game like Civilization will say only one nation can win, only one nation can be dominant. But I don't think like that in the real world, I don't look at let's say the political struggles in the US right now. I don't look at that and say, good, that is the collapse of a hegemonic empire, and out of their suffering will come the emergence of my country. I don't want anyone to suffer. And I think that's what most reasonable people feel too. Oof, pollution has really increased. Okay, so at this rate, we might hit pollution level 3. Oof, this is not good. This is not good. 3 is not so bad. 5 would be worse. But nevertheless, this is absolutely not good. So let us really focus right now on just flipping as many tiles as we can, flipping as much, just generating as much quiet as we can, as quickly as we can. And maybe what I should focus on then is just finishing these campaigns so that I can generate some more quiet. Yeah, let's start with this then. Okay, that adds a little more quiet. Yeah, I think that's true. I do think a lot of people attack Gandhi or MLK when they really just want to attack Ahimsa instead. And I have a lot to say about that. I think this actually comes back to like the psychic shock of colonization. I think people feel, amongst other things, emasculated by being colonized, or in the case of MLK, by like the legacy of slavery. And so I think people look to figures that are kind of traditionally masculine to restore that sense of masculinity, right? And I think they look to violence with the archetypal masculine response, right? And so I think you'll see a lot of criticism of MLK and of Gandhi coming out of that desire to recapture what is presumed to be a lost masculinity. But I think a better approach would be to ask why you want to recapture masculinity in the first place, you know? I do think that toxic masculinity causes a lot of issues, right? I don't think that's a particularly controversial statement at all. And I think that holds true even in the post-colonial context, where I don't want the answer to colonization to be rooted in toxic masculinity. I don't think that's a good place to start. So having said that, I think there are, of course, many strong criticisms to be made of both Gandhi and MLK. And I would prefer that people make those criticisms, you know, rather than making criticisms rooted in a perceived lack of manlyhood, which I do not think there's anything good that will come out of those examinations. So, let's see here. It is interesting. I do wonder at this point whether I should have avoided the factories. Right? I don't think those factories were the difference. I think it is like these two massive industrial blobs. But let's see what we can do. Okay, I'm just going to train the sanctum over here anyway. Okay, that worked out nicely. These camps are not close. But okay, let's just move here. Do it on the next turn. At least we have picked up that A, so that is good. So even if the group itself starts taking a bit more of a hit, at least we've got that A locked up, so that's nice. But it would be nicer still to keep the group healthy before we go. Right, here's where ideally you would see Radha and Anupam kind of deindustrialize, right? Just deindustrialize some of these camps. But I don't know if they can. I really hope Radha starts using these inspirations that she must be getting. But I think in a place like this, you need to focus on what you can do rather than worrying about the other people. Just focus on what you can do and trust in the other players to get what they need to do done. Right? Radha has absolutely killed this report, which is very fun. Very fun. It's not easy for Radha, right? It is really easy for you in particular, and it's also fairly easy for Kiran and even Anupam to add a bunch of things to the report. But when Radha does it, that's always good to see. But yeah, maybe had I focused more on quiet generation rather than trying to take that little side trip into factory production to get the fabric that I wanted. Maybe if I had done that, I would have been able to completely forestall, climate change, right? To avoid even the first extinction event. I just kind of wanted that fabric because I thought that being able to run the powerful satisfaction projects would be good. But the result is that I've wasted a bunch of time and not really gotten anywhere. I have not managed to really grow the quiet space. Okay, over here, didn't expect to get this one, but I will just develop here. Okay, Radha's absolutely churning out these views. I have never seen a project go this far. And I think that's basically because she's running at least 3, maybe 4 biomes right now. And she has industrialized quite heavily. So she is absolutely churning out these views. But if it wasn't for all of this quiet over here, she would have burnt the entire group out with that industrialization. Legitimately, I've said it before, but the unsung hero of this game is Kiran, because Kiran might not be generating all the quiet that we are, but Kiran has also just avoided industrialization. Because I do not think that this quiet area would be able to offset her in addition to Radha and Anupam. I think we're barely keeping pace with Radha. And thankfully, it's late enough in the game that we should be able to limp our way through. But had Kiran also industrialized, it would have been impossible. And I say that, but again, right, I cannot be ungrateful to Radha because she has pretty much single-handedly done this project. I think the rest of us weren't even necessary here. Yeah, I'll do that. I can just flip a few things pretty quick. Good to see that relationship get all the way. It's very pleasant. These are useful ones. Let's grab those. Over here, we'll just take this here, build this. Damn it, I really had thought that we had gotten through all of our quests, and now we just had a new set pop up. Okay, no big deal. Okay, that's good. I could either absorb some camps. I could try to build a wonder. I think I have to build a wonder. We'll go for these studying fundamentals, even though it's more expensive. We'll just put that here. Okay, turn 91, so we're coming up on the end. If I can just complete this wonder quickly, which maybe I'll be able to do through an inspiration, then that should really generate a lot of quiet, and hopefully from there we'll be able to just make our way till the end of the game. I kind of expect an extinction event pretty much any turn from here, so not looking forward to that. But we're still only at level 2. 2 is a lot better than 4. 3 is still manageable. But of course, once you, the way these work is that each one makes the next one more likely. So we really need to just keep a lid on it as soon as possible, and the crux of that is just completing these quests that are in front of us. And ideally these campaigns too, but we'll see about that. Yeah. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, the reality of Gandhi's stays in Dalit colonies. Gandhi made a point of staying in Dalit colonies when he would go visit places. He would make a point of not living in, not like taking a politician's place or something like that, not a castle, but instead living in the middle of the Dalit colonies. And that is a very interesting anecdote about the person who was in charge of his stays in those colonies and how he would manage, how he would set it up. They would put in new houses, they would run telephone lines, they would get electricity, they would set all of this stuff up before he visited so that he would be able to move right in. And of course, it's still a Dalit colony, and by staying there, he still forced people to interact with Dalits where they quite likely would have preferred not to. But there is a difference between staying in like a freshly constructed house with electricity and they didn't have AC, but they had water mats for cooling and telephone connectivity and so on, versus living as the Dalits of the time actually did. With Gandhi, the other issue was always the paternalism, right? And there are quite a few facts here that deal with just him being very, very paternalistic towards Dalits, towards Muslims, towards Christians, towards women. Whoever the group was, he was always ready to talk down to them. And that is a failing of his. There's no getting away from it, that these personal failings made things a lot harder. These personal failings may in some places have been the difference between, like, I don't know, more for a better, like, avoiding partition even, or a better situation for Dalits. Lots of things, right? He was just too arrogant to understand the failures of his proposals for Dalits, to understand how those proposals were insufficient. And of course, his confidence is key to who he was, right? He was a person who was so confident in his nonviolent approach, even before it was proved, right? Even before nonviolence had its first great success, right? His is the first great success of nonviolence. So that is where that confidence came in handy. But I don't think that these two are necessarily linked. I don't think that you need to have I don't think you need to have the paternalism in order to have the confidence in your convictions. I think you can be both. I think you can at once believe strongly in what you believe, but also be willing to understand that your experience isn't universal and that other people may have better ideas of how their own lives are than you can. It's interesting because he was such a singular character in the independence movement, right? We talked about Naipaul saying that Nehru had a spiritual faith in Gandhi as the spiritual leader of the movement, and not just the political leader. And early in his career, that was often the comparisons that were made about him. The comparison was not with Tilak or Gokhale, right, the major Indian politicians before him, but with the Buddha, right, who was a spiritual leader. And I don't know that I can think of another modern politician who so blended the role of spiritual and political, right? But the shortcomings were there. The shortcomings were definitely there. Oof, that is the third stage. And by the look of it, we only have 5 turns before the fourth stage. If we're lucky. Oof, that is rough. That is very rough. Absolutely not good. And that's going to make it harder to stay within the bounds. Once climate change starts, right? Each pollution stage makes the next pollution stage more likely. So that is not at all good. It's very concerning. Let's see what we get. Okay, good. Good. That's going to be a big difference. Completing that debate. Just going to stay quiet. I would like to complete this Become Friends campaign, but it doesn't really look like it's very feasible. I need one of the other players to do that for me. We'll see if they do. If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. Either way, we're fine. And admittedly, I can't imagine not getting to turn 100 either way. But yeah, we should have just focused on our role as the Oasis here. I think we got sidetracked there, and that didn't help. I do think that had we been able to just stay calm, stay quiet, like we've had a lot of quests up for quite a while, we just kind of let the campaigns get away from us. And I mean, that one that's not entirely intentional, that is to some degree just mistakes in the decisions we made. But I do think that had we been able to push even the first extinction event a little later, the first pollution event, then I think the carry-on effects would have been that we wouldn't have ever hit pollution level 3, let alone pollution level 4, which seems imminent. That's unfortunate. But I do think that this has showcased the inspiration economy fairly well, because you see we did get a bunch done. If you go look at the report, we're second or third in the amount of points we added, despite very limited industrialization. Let's see here. I can just move this here. Okay, so with this engineer, we'll just build this. Yeah, I'll just go with another engineer. Okay. 205. That is crazy. So let's say Radha is number 1, Anupam is number 2. We're number 3, but it's not so distant. Yeah. What's this? The complexity factor is still high, but it's like 7.2 thousand out of 18,000, so it's not terrible. I think the report has really come together. Again, our goal here is just, how healthy can we keep the relationship before the project ends, you know? our grade will be the same, but it's important to me that like these girls don't end the group report on a bad note. It's important to me that like these are four kids who have done a group report. They're still fairly young, right? Like they're high school kids or something. I don't think I ever really set down details or anything, but bunch of young kids, right? I just want them not to be fighting at the end of it. I want them to be able to come out of the game in a good place with each other. I want them to like be able to hang out with each other after the game. And this is actually a big thing in, let's say, Civilization, right? Where you'll have people whom you like let's say Gilgamesh, right? Gilgamesh is such a friendly guy in Civ 6, right? But then often you'll find that you have no choice but to do something nasty to him, right? Either you need to fight him early in the game because you need a couple of extra cities, or you need to fight him late in the game because you're looking for a domination victory, or you win the space race without him. There's not much in the way of victories where everybody wins in Civilization, right? Or you need to send your missionaries into his cities, even though he has a religion of his own. There's just no scope for both you and him to win. It's one or the other. And that goes against the fact that like he's a really likable chap in the game. When people like Gorgo are denouncing you every step of the way, he just wants to be friends, and like it's very easy to respond to that as a player. I too just want to be friends with him. So given that it is nice in this game that I can say, I just want these girls to have a good time. I just want them to come out of it in a good place, come out of it having made friends, Because let's be honest, right? You go to school, you get an A on a group report, it does not matter. Right? No, I can't tell you what grades I got on any of my group reports now. It's been a long time, right? But you make some friends, that can stick with you. That's a nice thing to have happen, right? That's a thing that you'll remember 20 years later, that you worked with some people and you had a good time, right? You made some friends, you had some fun. That's what I'm saying, right? And again, that's what the game revolves around, right? Like, here you can see Radha really focused on getting the report done, right? And she did an incredible amount. As the score to get an A is 5,000, and she has added by herself 10,000, right? But the result is that the group is much, much more toxic than it would have been otherwise, because she has industrialized so much, because she's so focused on getting the report done well. Right? She could have gone much less hard, and things would be much better. But at the same time, I'm not going to blame her, for being the person who carries us over the top. That's not at all fair, right? She did her job. I didn't do my job well enough here. My job was to keep the group healthy, right? And I slacked off on that. I got sidetracked, and so the pollution kind of got out of control. But hopefully we're going to end the game with it still in manageable levels, right? We're at 97. We haven't hit pollution stage 4 yet. And hopefully we can make it all the way to 100 without hitting that. But let's see, it's going to be a close run, because you can see that even now the pollution is spreading pretty hard across a good large chunk of the game. And I think one thing I could have done was just focus on spreading into new biomes a lot more, just contested some of these biomes much harder, especially Responsible, Energizer, Harmonizer, and the Ridge. I mean, really all of the biomes. But had I contested those harder, I might have been able to flip more tiles over there. You know, I might have been able to take some tiles over on those places and flip them into Lotus ones. Maybe even had that spread a little bit. So next time I play like this, I'm going to make a point of doing that and just kind of like focusing on what I'm trying to do rather than getting sidetracked, because I just can't even use this. I don't think I got enough value from that fabric to make it worthwhile. Like, I could do one of these projects right here. I'm just gonna add some connectors. Game's almost done. Right, I don't think I have time to complete the project anyway. I could have meditated. Could have meditated a bit. Probably should have meditated some more when I had control of camps over here. Yeah. I will say though that it would have been nice if Radha had been able to use the inspiration she must have gotten for more. But then I also could have committed more to keeping that biome under her control. Right, and I did just I let myself get walled off in the responsible biome too early. If I'd been able to draw more of a line down, maybe I could have kept it from spreading so much. Because exactly in the same way that Lotus tiles spread, you'll see pollution tiles spread, right? Like, each polluted tile will cause pollution in all of the adjacent tiles, and that in turn will cause further pollution. So let's see. I'm still hoping I can make it without losing, like, oh, there it is. Oh, so see, now you'll see what happens with this, right? We just lost pretty much everything in all of that space, which is a shame. It's a real shame. Let's see if we can at least get to the end of the game though without everything collapsing. At least we can end the game on our terms rather than on the pollution's terms. So overall, I would say this is a mixed bag, success-wise. I was hoping to stay at least under pollution level 4 by the end of the game. I was really hoping to like max out at pollution level 1 or 2, which I've done before. I guess I should have been focusing more on like keeping our friendship strong, and just going over to her spaces and managing the pollution a little more rather than being so strictly focused on my own space. But it is made harder by the fact that, like, once you industrialize, you have all of the resources of the industrialization at your disposal. It makes it a lot easier to maintain control. But I think I just didn't take it seriously enough either. So that's how that goes. Good. I'm glad I completed that. Good to have made a friend. Okay, final turn. It's good. Spirit of 1940. Put another sanctum down. Put one here. It's probably the last sanctum that can be built. Oh no, I mean, I can probably build some on some tiles that have already been flipped. And this is where it's useful to have done all that flipping already. it did reduce the damage of what was catastrophic climate change, but but not as bad as the final stuff. So okay, that was a game of Syphilisation. Bit of a mixed bag. Was hoping for better, but at least you got to see a lot. At least you got to see how the inspiration economy can work, how the quiet economy can work, the alternative the game gives you to industrialization. You'll notice I did build a couple of factories at the end. That was a mistake. I should have avoided that entirely, and I could have done without them. Right? Built them because I wanted to try it, because I got greedy, pretty much. And had I just focused on my role, I think the game would have ended a lot better. So I just wanted to show you what it was like to just go away from the standard Forex economy route, go into the inspiration economy, try to go through the game that way. Yeah, try to balance out the industrialization of other people, show you that it's doesn't have to be like it's not a binary. You can just fill your role while other people fill other roles, and you look at how much Radha did for this project, you look at how important that is, right? We would never have been an A without her adding so much to this group report, and we are going to get that A at the end of the day, so that's at least nice. So yeah, now we're just waiting for this final turn to process, and there we go. That's the game complete. Teacher's impressed by the work. Good to see that we stuck to interesting topics. Unfortunately, still a little difficult. There's that complexity factor catching up with us. We became friends with Radha and Anupam. That's quite nice. I wish I'd been able to be friends with Kiran as well. Notice we managed to avoid any big fights. That's also nice. Unfortunately, the pollution stage is just too high, so it doesn't look like this will last. But who knows? Now the group project is done. Hopefully now everybody's put all of the industrializing they had to do to get the project done behind them. Maybe now they can start fresh. There's already a lot of friendship, already a lot of peacefulness. So yeah, I'm hopeful. Yeah, so that was a full playthrough of Syphilisation. That was the secret quiet economy playthrough rather than the more typical industrialized one. Thanks for watching. Please check out the game if you found it interesting. Tell me any thoughts you might have. Yeah, I hope to hear from you. Thanks. Bye.